I see the universe as gracious and generous. And is this the truth, or is this my own story that I hang on the universe? And what's the difference? Do you think if you create a story and you hang it on the world, that story becomes your reality? I think Jung showed in his work, particularly his later work, that people create these stories and they feed into the collective unconscious, the sort of mind of the humanity in general. And so once enough people believe something, it becomes this collective archetypal belief that you can kind of pull from. And so when you believe something, that goes into the kaleidoscope, the collage, the mosaic of humanity's experience. And then that belief will be tested, and you'll revise it, and you'll interact with life, and you'll interact with the world and other people's beliefs. Your body is a constellation of your beliefs, for instance. Your beliefs about cells, your beliefs about molecular biology, your beliefs about your immune system, your beliefs about your soul. People walk through the world so differently, and they carry different beliefs. For some people, the body is a machine that is bound to malfunction at some point. For other people, the body is this vehicle for living life, or this divine channel that does not malfunction. What's the difference when someone gets sick? It's the meaning they create. Someone's sick, oh, the body malfunctioned. Let's go to someone to fix the machinery, a doctor, for instance. Fix the part that's broken. Find the part that's broken. Give me the thing that'll fix that. And for the other person, oh, there's some sort of divine message. Something broke down because it's out of alignment. You could say dietarily, philosophically, emotionally, etc. So there's no difference necessarily in the disease. There's a lot more power in believing that things happen for a reason, if you ask me, because you can hone in on that reason and correct that thing. Have you ever heard of someone healing themselves by reaching a more positive state? Now, I hesitate to use negative and positive because everything signifies something else. Everything's a sacred message from the body. Negative feelings are significant of an unmet need and positive of a met need. So look at Norman Cousins. He had some terminal disease, and he just sat around watching comedies and laughed, and that changes cellular physiology, and he healed his disease. I forgot exactly what disease it was in this moment. I think it's called Anatomy of an Illness, the book. And so that's a powerful example. However, there are countless examples. Like, what about someone who suffers from arthritis, then they move to another relationship and they come out of arthritis? I was in a meeting the other day, and there were two doctors saying, like, you can't treat arthritis without these drugs. These drugs have really improved since 30 years ago. Now you need them, and the side effects aren't too bad. So that was their worldview. They're going to fix this broken machine with this one thing they know about. It's like that Maslow quote, when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. That's fine, because I said I had a client that wanted to try a more holistic approach first. This guy who was a doctor, his face turned all red, his veins were bulging out. It was very threatening to his worldview. So what do we do with this? How do we interact with this person that has different opinions? I just listened and said, okay, it sounds like you're pretty firm in that belief. And you know what? People that are very entrenched in their beliefs, they think this. It's not a belief, it's truth. I have all the research. For one thing, you're focusing on research that buoys up your point of view. Okay? And for another thing, there's all kinds of research that's in the shadows of your worldview. So has anyone ever healed arthritis naturally? I have countless case studies of that. So if I'm looking at those and he's looking at these, we both formulate different opinions. And his opinion is sort of easy because you can walk through the world in comfort in your bubble and think, oh, the whole world's bolstering up my opinion. All this research, all this science, all the narratives, etc. It's a little bit easier, isn't it? But then you have someone, here's a little chink in the armor. Someone says, I believe in like holistic treatment of this condition. Attack! It's like the agents start attacking the person in the Matrix that wakes up. There you go. So, long story short, I had done a 7-day dry fast prior to heal some of my own things, like a few months before. So I encouraged this client because I read about someone healing their rheumatoid arthritis with a dry fast. Now, once you have the joint damage, it's hard to repair that entirely. However, she reached a 3.5-day dry fast, and her she experienced profound improvement. Now, the key is to go up to a 7 or a 9 day or an 11 day, depending on what you need. So you work up to that. However, there you go. My belief, I brought it to that woman, and my belief became part of her story. Now, if she had gone to that other person, that doctor, his belief would have become part of her story. You cannot heal this thing without this drug. Now, when you say a side effect is not that bad, what does that mean? That's another reason that's a biased worldview. What does not that bad mean? What if you die 10 years earlier? However, you can't exactly correlate it to that drug because there's not a study that shows that that's diminishing your life force, burdening your system, overtaxing your organs, whatever it may be, right? So I decline the idea that it's like they're not that bad. What does that even mean? That's so vague. How can you be so scientific about, oh, the stats are this, and then say some vague comment? It shows that you're kind of under the umbrella of some sort of programming, right? And I'm not just saying that judgmentally because we all are. What I learned during recent events was that someone could be a genius in one area and completely ignorant about another. I was slammed into the ocean floor, forced to heal my neck, had to go through all this work around learning about medicine and holistic healing, which I'm really glad I did, because when events like this happen, I'm like, oh, I've read 100 books or 1,000 books on this topic. I don't feel as disempowered. I don't feel like I have to abnegate my responsibility. I don't feel like I have to go to authority figures for any kind of knowledge, like I'm completely in the dark. And that's been very empowering for me. So, however, I'm sure I still have my shadow areas. Like I'll sometimes say something dumb, and I realize, oh, I just got that from a book somewhere, and someone else will come and that's silly, right? I was a fruitarian, so I could argue endlessly about the ethics or the morality about a vegan diet, a diet that doesn't cause harm to animals. Great. I could proliferate the words out of my mouth. And then I could also learn something where, there's chicken blood and chicken feathers and all this death that goes into the farming process for even many kinds of vegans. Now I can try to rationalize my way out of that too. Natural deaths are then the animal would lay down under the tree and die peacefully, or a predator would get it and would lay down under the tree. Or there are fruit trees that are dry farmed, and they, like at Hilton Hotema's model, they use certain kinds of electric and minerals electricity that flows through certain minerals in the soil. So it's they don't really need that. That's a myth, etc. And even so, you get caught in a worldview, and it really limits the rest of the worldview. How do we get out of this as humans? How do we walk through the world open? And you know how Christ said, be like children. Children walk around the world and they're open to learning, and they're slowly cementing their worldview. However, anything can take on any meaning, can take on any sheen, can take on any glow, etc. And there are still shadows where we don't even look, where it's rife with possibility and life, etc. After in 7 days of a silent retreat one time, I could feel the ants scurrying on the trees. And I felt like it was something like a return to childhood, because these ants were like aglow and the world was so alive. You know what I had to do to get to that state? Shut up and sit still for 7 days. And I went up to 10 days, and it was actually 10 and a half, which caused all kinds of chaos in the mind. So, is that my advice? Sit still and be quiet? Maybe. So, it's not, you don't have to sit still forever. There's this practice not doing and everything falls into place, the Tao Te Ching. Why is dry fasting the most powerful healing modality in the world? It's doing the least. That's interesting. Now, it doesn't mean you just sit there until you die and you do the least forever. You do the least until you get the clarity of the next step, and then you do the most. And then you do as much as you need to do. So, that's just a little bit of a frame on beliefs, where they get in the way of living. I think beliefs are essential. And I want to give you the caveat that they're also profoundly limiting, and they can kill you. If you get labeled with a terminal disease and you're like, this is a terminal disease, I have 3 weeks to live. That's an example of a belief that will definitely kill you. So just be wary.